Hey Astro Kids, and welcome back. And in this video, we're going to be talking about this Saturn retrograde coming up here in the month of May, what this is all about, how this will affect you with your zodiac sign. So before everyone starts to freak out over this retrograde, let's first understand what a retrograde is all about. So retrograde is a review period. This is where a planet actually slows down and gives us some more clarity, some more insight into whatever this planet is trying to show us. So a retrograde is not a time of negative things happening. This can be a time of negative things happening depending upon how it affects your personal chart, but it is not confirmed that it will affect everyone in a negative way. So that's the first part that I wanted to get out of the way. The other thing is that we have this misconception that the planet is moving backwards. The planet is actually not moving backwards. It is slowing down so that the other planets appear to be moving faster than that planet, which gives it the effect of going backwards. This would be the same as if you were on a highway and you were moving faster than the car next to you. It would appear to be going backwards because you're going faster than that car. This is the same thing that's happening during a retrograde, is these planets are slowing down, which is actually a good thing. This gives us a deeper look into what this planet is all about. And so, especially if you have any retrograde planets in your natal chart, those planets are actually good planets, depending on how they're situated, what other planets are involved, and so forth. But those planets are good because it gives you the ability to look deeper into them. Especially a Mercury retrograde tends to give a person an ability to slow down and look closer into the details, to analyze and understand things at a deeper level. So the retrograde is not a scary thing as most people would believe it to be. That's the first thing that I wanted to bring up here. The other thing is that this is Saturn stationing retrograde in the sign of Capricorn. And Saturn has been here in the sign of Capricorn for a while now. We've seen this throughout 2020 coming here into this year where Saturn is going through this transit of Capricorn. So it takes about 2 to 2.5 years for Saturn to shift from its position. And so Capricorn is the home sign of Saturn. Saturn is very much at home here. And this has brought up large themes of the government, of society at large, and the structures, the systems, and how all of this is coming into play. Because remember that Saturn is a teacher. It is one of our social planets, and so it does have to do with society. Saturn is here to teach us about discipline, hard work, restrictions, rules, limitations, and so forth. So the planet Saturn is actually the planet of justice, right? This is why Saturn is exalted in the sign of Libra, because Libra is about evening out the scales, that even exchange, making sure that people are getting the right justice for their wrong deeds. So Saturn is actually this planet that is about bringing you your karmic justice, holding you accountable, holding you responsible for certain things. So Saturn is a planet that limits us, it restricts us, it makes sure that we do things in the correct way. So Saturn is that planet in your chart where if you're feeling a block, or you're feeling a fear, or you're feeling this difficulty in getting what you want out of that area as fast as you want it, you can't get that instant gratification. This is due to Saturn, which is teaching you discipline, is teaching you the right way to do this. So this is what Saturn is all about. Now, Capricorn is the home of Saturn. The Mula-Trikona sign for Saturn is actually Aquarius, and Aquarius is a little bit of a different energy as it is also co-ruled by Rahu, which gives it that very eccentric and unusual type of energy. Here in Capricorn, this is strictly just ruled by Saturn, and so Capricorn is a very dry and serious type of sign. It is all about the rules, discipline, authority, career, responsibilities. Capricorn is about taking what you have, taking your resources, taking what you have gained, no matter how little it is, and using that to rise up to the top through hard work, through discipline, through routine, through staying committed to the task that you have set out to do. So this is what this energy of Capricorn is all about. And now we're putting Saturn in the sign of Capricorn, and we are going through a retrograde. And we've already seen Saturn station retrograde in the sign of Capricorn before. This is going to be a rerun of what we saw back in 2020, where we still have some major things in society that have to be worked out. And if you have not already checked out that video on the full moon lunar eclipse in Scorpio, this Saturn retrograde plays a huge role in that lunar eclipse that we will be going through as a collective, where the lunar eclipse is a big moment of unexpected changes, of internal work and reflection. And if you'd like to know more about that lunar eclipse that's coming up here on May 26th in the sign of Scorpio in the Anuradha Nakshatra, make sure to check out that video. I will leave a link above and down below in the description as well. But coming back to this Saturn retrograde, this is a time of reflecting on the choices, on the decisions that we have made. So Saturn is a very rational planet. It is all about, again, the discipline, the rules, the structure, the systems in place. It is all about doing things by the book, doing things in the right way. And so sort of similar to the planet of Jupiter, except Jupiter is about the beliefs, the morals, the principles. Here, Saturn is actually applying these things into our tangible reality. So Saturn is bringing about justice. It is bringing about structure. It's bringing about discipline. This is what this energy of Saturn is all about. Here in this retrograde, this is a major time on a personal level to look at the decisions that you have made in your life. Have they been rational? Have they been hasty? Reviewing all of these things and seeing the areas that need to be adjusted and worked on and focused in at this time. I talked about this a little bit in the video of those who have a Capricorn ascendant, that Capricorn, just because it is a serious and disciplined sign, this does not mean that Capricorn is always going to be rigid. Capricorn is a cardinal sign, which means it's a movable sign. It is actually changing, it is moving, it is getting things done. So Capricorn is a movable earth sign. It moves the earth, right? It shakes the ground beneath our feet. So Capricorn is actually about going into a system or an organization that doesn't work and changing things to make it work, to bring about that balance, that discipline, that structure that needs to be there. So Capricorn actually is a sign that comes in and changes and breaks things down and restores things as they are meant to be. So especially as Saturn is stationing retrograde here in this sign of Capricorn, a lot of changing, a lot of growth that needs to take place here throughout this transit. Now we're going to go into the nakshatra of where Saturn will station retrograde, and it'll spend a lot of time in this nakshatra because Saturn is a very slow moving planet, right? It is out towards the end of our solar system. So this is one of the reasons why we say that Saturn is connected to loneliness, depression, restriction, limitation. It's a very cold and dry sort of planet where we experience these harder lessons of reality. So we're going to talk more about this nakshatra that Saturn will station retrograde here in the sign of Capricorn. So this retrograde of Saturn will take place within the Shravana nakshatra. Remember that this is represented by the listening ear. So this is a moon-controlled nakshatra. This is a huge time of listening to the symbols, the messages that are coming into your life. So huge signs can come in on the decisions that need to be made and reflected on through this retrograde. This becomes a great time of reviewing and carefully listening inward and paying attention to the things happening around you. Remember that this nakshatra is a moon-controlled nakshatra, the moon dealing with the psyche. And so this is one where you can get a lot of messages and feelings that can shift you in the correct direction. Huge time to pay close attention to the universe with this nakshatra. Now, as far as the pada, this will fall between the first 3 padas of this nakshatra. So it'll start off in the Gemini Navamsa, and it'll move back through Taurus and Aries. And so as we come into this Gemini Navamsa here, this Mercury controlled pada, this is a huge time of learning, of communicating, and remembering that because this is the listening ear, this communication is not only about speaking. Gemini has this ability of doing both, of listening and talking. And so this is a huge time of paying close attention to the wisdom, to the knowledge that you are gaining, and applying this into your life. As you are communicating, as you're reaching out, as you are expressing yourself, making sure that you're also listening to what's being said as well. And this ability to have yourself heard. This also becomes a great time of any sort of skills or lessons that you have skipped over or that you have not paid close enough attention to, going back and rereading, revising, going over these areas that you have skipped over in the past. Remember that Saturn does not allow these hasty, quick decisions to happen. This retrograde is putting a huge emphasis on going in and applying the discipline, the structure, the patience that is needed to get to the correct outcome. Now, as we move back through this retrograde into that second pada, which is within a Taurus Navamsa, this becomes especially about listening to any signs or symbols that come in. Remember that Taurus is a Venus-led sign. It is connected to the arts. And so any images, any sounds that come in on the radio, anything along those lines can be huge messages for you. Taurus also being connected to the earth. And so you may see some signs through nature as well, seeing certain animals, certain symbols in your life can give you huge messages about things that need to be revised and looked over at this time throughout this Saturn retrograde. Pay close attention to those signs and symbols here in this Shravana nakshatra. Now, the last part of this, which will come towards the end, will fall in the Aries Navamsa. And so this is especially going to be a time of focusing on the actions that you need to take. What needs to be changed? What needs to be improved? What strategies and plans do you need to put into place here coming towards the end of this? This whole transit of this Saturn retrograde is giving a lot of clarity and insight as to the changes and the things that need to be applied into your life. And so especially if you have made quick decisions in the past, and many of us have with this Mars and Gemini and Mercury and Aries transit that we have gone through here, all of that Aries energy, especially at the beginning of Aries season that we saw back in April, there's been a lot of hastiness, a lot of this quick decision, this impulsivity of this Aries energy. And so this is especially a time to slow down, as this will be happening with the sun in Taurus. Everything is slowed down, relaxed now, more grounded. This is a time to be present. This is a time to reflect and look at these areas thoroughly and to have the patience and discipline to go in and to make the proper decisions, to put things in the correct order and structure within your life. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the aspects of this Saturn retrograde, and then we will jump into your moon or ascendant sign and how this will affect you according to your chart. So Saturn will be sitting with Pluto in Capricorn. Pluto has already stationed retrograde, and so these two together again are putting us through these deep internal changes within the structure of our life, but also on a societal level, these changes that are happening collectively are happening here through this Saturn retrograde. Now, also, as we come into this retrograde, Saturn will cast an aspect on the moon in Virgo. And so, especially as we're entering into this becomes a huge time of using your skills, using your talents, paying attention to the details, especially as this will aspect over to the moon in the Hasta Nakshatra there in the sign of Virgo, represented by the hands. This is a moon-ruled nakshatra, all about your creative abilities and talents and expressing that through the hands, through the communication, through writing, through your skill sets. So this becomes a huge time. Once again, we talked about this through this Saturn retrograde, you want to pay close attention to the details, to the lessons, to the things that you have skipped over. This is going to help you to perfect yourself in those areas where there are difficulties, where there are delays. Remember that those delays are a part of Saturn's karma. And so this is showing you the areas that you need to bring back into balance. Also, as these planets of the Sun, Mercury, Mars, and Venus shift forward into the sign of Cancer, these will all come into the aspect of Saturn. And so this will be a time of all of this energy that is focused on these changes that need to be made. And on top of this, we will be inside of an eclipse season with all of these retrogrades that will take place, as Mercury will be our next planet to station retrograde. So there's a lot of work that is coming up throughout this Saturn retrograde of going in, looking at the details, paying close attention to all of the changes that need to be made. With Venus there, with Mercury there, looking at your talents, your skills, with the Sun there, being consciously aware of those changes that need to be made. And with Mars there, how can you act differently? How can you plan the proper strategy to put these things back into order as they are meant to be? So let's go ahead and finish this off with your horoscopes. And once again, I want to remind you all that I am not using the tropical zodiac. So that tropical zodiac is typically used in Western astrology. It is based on the seasonal points and has to do with that zodiac that was discovered thousands of hundreds of years ago. We're not going to focus on that. We're focusing on the sidereal zodiac, which is based upon where the stars are positioned right now. So keep that in mind, that those stars are actually moving. They are shifting counterclockwise along the sun's path, along the ecliptic. So that is very important. That is where we will focus on in these horoscopes. And also on these horoscopes, I'm focusing in on Jyotisha or Vedic astrology, which is based upon the scriptures. So this is going to be based upon your moon sign, not your sun sign, as we focus on the moon in Vedic astrology. That moon is a very important factor as it plays into all of your behaviors and patterns, because the moon is connected to the mind, right? This is why we see a lot of times during different phases of the moon, animals will behave strangely or people will behave strangely, because the moon is directly connected to the psyche. It is our state of mind, the way that we think and feel, the things that nurture us, our connection to our mother, to our home. The moon is actually the internal functioning of who we are. It is a very vital part of the personality that we must keep in mind in the horoscope. Along with that, I tend to focus on the ascendant, as that is the point from which your soul made contact with this physical reality. So your ascendant is mapping out your whole physical journey throughout life. So those 2 points, the moon and the ascendant, they are the most important that I urge you all to look at in these horoscopes. So starting off here, for those of you with an Aries moon or Aries ascendant, this will be Saturn stationing retrograde in your 10th house of career and public image. This is a huge time to rethink your achievements, your plans of success, the things that you are trying to chase after. Are you trying to quickly go after these things? And this tends to be a huge theme for those of you with an Aries moon, Aries ascendant. You have very strong willpower, especially on a mental level. This mental strength and agility with Gemini and Virgo controlling those 2 houses, dealing with your entrepreneurship and your ability to overcome obstacles. And so for a lot of you with an Aries moon, Aries ascendant, you have this sort of impulsiveness to try to charge ahead. But this Saturn retrograde is urging you to take some time to patiently think through what it is you're trying to achieve. So this is a huge time of replanning, revising, looking over all of the details, making sure that everything is in the proper order in terms of what you're trying to achieve there in that 10th house. For those of you with a Taurus moon or Taurus ascendant, this will be a Saturn retrograde in your 9th house. And so this is a huge time for anyone who is in education right now, anyone who is learning anything, who is seeking out guidance, taking the time to make sure that you are looking over all of the details, that you are listening properly. Remember that this Saturn retrograde is going to be in the nakshatra of the listening ear. So paying close attention to what you're learning, to what you're gaining, making sure that you're understanding everything clearly at this time is highly important. For those of you with a Gemini moon, Gemini ascendant, this will be Saturn stationing retrograde in your 8th house. This is a time where you can experience some shifts and changes that are happening there with this position of Saturn. This is a huge time of looking at all of the shifts and changes that are happening, understanding the challenges and difficulties and how to get around this. Remember that Saturn is actually positionally strong in that 8th house, because the 8th house is the house of crisis and Saturn is stabilizing that house. So even though Saturn is a functional malefic, that house is already a malefic house. Saturn is there preventing the crisis, preventing the changes, the difficulties of happening. So this is sort of freezing time for you, where you are getting this opportunity to look at any sort of potential crisis or changes that will happen in the future, and how can you plan accordingly so that this doesn't lead to some sort of disaster or unexpected situation in your life. For those of you with a Cancer moon, Cancer ascendant, this will be a Saturn retrograde in your 7th house of partnership. This is a huge time to look at your business, your career, making sure that everything is in check, that you are communicating and getting your point across in a clear way. There can be some misunderstandings with this position within your relationships, within your career, of how you're presenting yourself. Remember that Saturn is actually making an aspect from its 10th position. And so this is also going to affect your appearance, of how you're showing up, of how others are seeing you as well. And this is affecting your finances, your wealth. All of these things are huge at this time. For those of you with a Leo moon or Leo ascendant, this will be a Saturn retrograde in your 6th house of conflicts. Similar to what we said with Gemini, this is here to delay or avoid certain conflicts in your life. So this is a moment of this freeze to really take a look at any potential accidents or difficulties that can come up in the future and seeing how to make the right decisions, the right choices. Again, paying close attention to the signs of the universe, listening to everything that is happening. This Saturn retrograde can help you avoid some future accidents with this position. You especially want to pay close attention to anything health related, anything related to your daily routine and habits. For those of you with a Virgo moon or Virgo ascendant, this will be a Saturn retrograde in your 5th house. Again, we see these issues of self-expression that are showing up here for those of you with a Virgo moon, Virgo ascendant. Huge area of growth that is needed here, and especially with this being in the nakshatra of the listening ear, working on communication, working on expressing yourself, working on putting your ideas out into the world. This can affect your career and how you are seen and noticed by taking these risks, making these decisions related to stepping out and expressing yourself. For those of you with a Libra moon or Libra ascendant, this will be Saturn stationing retrograde in your 4th house. And so this is especially a time to look inward, as this is in a private house here in your 4th house of home and family, to look inward within yourself and to see these potential struggles and changes that need to be worked through. We talked a lot about for the Libra moon, Libra ascendant, where there can be some childhood or past issues that come up for you during that lunar eclipse in Scorpio. So this is a huge time to really look inward, to reflect, to look at the areas of your life that need to be put into the correct order and structure. A lot of things can be out of place according to your family, your home, your environment, these past connections that you have. So not allowing your past to define you, but figuring out how to move forward, as Saturn is also controlling that 5th house for you. For those of you with a Scorpio moon or Scorpio ascendant, this will be Saturn stationing retrograde in your 3rd house of communication and entrepreneurship. So similar to what we said about the Virgo moon, Virgo ascendant, this is a huge time of looking at your self-expression, of how you're putting yourself out into the world. This can be an area where you can see some difficulty in anything related to publishing, to communication, to writing, to journalism, where there can be some misunderstandings. And so this is an important area of taking that time, being patient enough to make sure that you're looking at all the details, looking at how everything is being presented at this time in your self-expression. For those of you with a Sagittarius moon or Sagittarius ascendant, this will be Saturn stationing retrograde in your 2nd house. And so this is a huge time where you can see some trying or difficult times around finances, around family. You may be heavily needed in this area. And we've seen Saturn sit here for a long time for those of you with this position. But this is a retrograde where this is especially an area where you want to look very closely at all of the details, making sure that everything is sorted out around your finances, your possessions, your family, that everything is taken care of, all of the needs and security is in order. For those of you with a Capricorn moon or Capricorn ascendant, this will be Saturn stationing retrograde in your 1st house of self. And so similar to what we have seen throughout this entire transit, you are going through this internal growth and process within yourself. We've seen this with Saturn sitting here for some time now, and Jupiter has been here in this house. Pluto is still here. It is retrograde as we're coming into this Saturn retrograde. So there's a lot of change, a lot of growth, a lot of improvement within yourself that is happening at this time. For those of you with an Aquarius moon or Aquarius ascendant, this will be Saturn stationing retrograde back in your 12th house. So similar to what we said with Capricorn moon or ascendant, except this is back in your subconscious. And so some of you may not be aware of these things that need to be worked through, that need to be adjusted. at this time. And so this is especially a time where you want to pay close attention to those messages from the universe, to the things that are coming through at a subconscious level. That is very important at this time, as that will help you in restructuring and working through these areas that need the growth and improvement. For those of you with a Pisces moon or Pisces ascendant, this will be Saturn stationing retrograde up in your 11th house. Your friends, your hopes and dreams, your gains that are coming in, everything that you are set on achieving at this time needs to be looked at. And so anything where you are hoping for something to happen, what are the actual steps to get there? This nakshatra of the listening ear is not only about getting advice, listening in, communicating, learning, but it is about applying those things that you are gaining through that listening and through that communication as well. This is within a Capricorn nakshatra, and so this is especially going to be about hard work, about what can you apply into this, the practical. This is Capricorn once again, so this is not going to be a halfway project, a halfway goal at this time. You want to make sure that you are following through on the second half of your manifestation, which is putting in the work, putting in the discipline, making this happen in reality. This is going to be heavily challenged through this Saturn retrograde, where some of you may be used to dreaming or visioning or just going through the motions, but this is a time to really put in the effort to make these things happen. This is also a time where you want to be careful around your friend circles. You may experience some loss in terms of your friends. Once again, Saturn is a planet of isolation, of depression, of loneliness, of detachment, as it sits there at the end of our solar system. And so this could be an area where anyone who is no longer meant to be in your life can be leaving at this time, and there may be a period of loneliness or isolation that comes into this area for those of you with a Pisces moon, Pisces ascendant. Realizing that this is a time of growth, that Saturn is never going to leave you with nothing. Saturn is a planet that gives you long-term results as you are patient and disciplined. So paying attention to all of the little signs, all of the little signals, all of the things that are happening, and realizing the plan, the mission of what is happening here in your life is vitally important. So this has been your horoscope for Saturn retrograde. I hope you all enjoyed this. If you like this video, feel free to leave a like as well as a comment. If you are new to this channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button along with the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any new content. We have a lot to talk about as we are not done with this eclipse season. This full moon lunar eclipse in Scorpio is just the beginning. We have a lot to talk about as there is a solar eclipse coming on June the 10th, and we have some major retrogrades that are coming up as well as we dive deeper into 2021. If you are interested in learning more in Vedic astrology, there is a course available in the Facebook group, Astrology Lessons with Daquanjones. There's a link for that down below in the description along with the comments. If you have any additional questions, anything that you'd like to add, feel free to leave it down below in the comments. And I want to thank you all so much for joining me. I hope you all have a great day, and I will see you in the next video.